Revealed, how a simple fried EGG with rice transformed a millionaire CEO's heart in 30 amazing seconds. Jake Thompson stared out of his plush office, the city skyline glinting off his glass walls like diamonds. At 38, he had it all: wealth, power, and a title that made him a god in the corporate world. But as he gazed at the sun setting over the city, a hollow ache clawed at him. This success felt empty, a bitter aftertaste to dreams that once fueled him. What was the point of all this money, cars, exclusive dinners if the heart behind it felt neglected? His mind drifted back to his small-town roots, to Hank, his father. A humble diner owner and veteran, Hank had taught Jake the true values of hard work, family loyalty, and community pride. But as Jake climbed higher, he left those lessons choking amidst the fancy ties and boardroom battles. That all changed one fateful afternoon when a call shattered his sterile world. "Jake, your father's not well." Guilt sunk like lead in his stomach. As he hung up, something stirred inside him. He had to go home. Driving through familiar streets, each corner buzzed with nostalgia, yet a shadow loomed over every memory. Jake saw his childhood friends still wrestling with life's hardships, faces he had long forgotten. As he pulled up to Hank's diner, his heart sank. It looked different now, tired, worn out, like a once vibrant painting that had faded with time. Inside, old photos lined the walls, memories frozen in time. But the diner itself was on the brink of closure. Hank stood behind the counter, his back stooped, a shadow of the man he once was. The air was thick with unspoken words, simmering tensions igniting between father and son as Jake moved closer. A simple fried egg with rice was placed in front of him, the dish that once graced their family table. It seemed absurd, this meal, yet it sent waves of warmth crashing into his heart. With each forkful, memories flooded in, laughter, a sense of belonging, the rhythm of family life. He felt the sharp pang of longing, a realization that he had lost more than just time. He had lost authenticity. Outside, the harshness of reality peeked through the diner's windows. Jake had everything the world deemed important but felt utterly lost. He offered to invest in the diner to restore it, believing it could bridge the gap between him and Hank. But hopes unraveled quicker than he could attach them. With each failed attempt, he felt threads of connection fraying between himself and his father. "Why didn't you stay?" Hank's voice cracked, and Jake's chest tightened. It was the question he had avoided. They confronted each other, hurt echoed in every word. Jake realized his absence had robbed Hank of more than just a son, it had hollowed out his spirit. In that raw moment, buried sacrifices and unspoken love bubbled to the surface, igniting a painful but necessary dialogue. He couldn't buy back what was lost with money, he needed to earn it back. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake started rallying community support to save the diner, feeling a flicker of purpose ignite within him. But as he stared at his father's tired eyes, the unspoken question loomed. Had he waited too long to earn back his father's trust? Would he ever mend the scars his wealth and ambition carved between him and the town he once loved? Jake stepped out of the diner, the air bracing and crisp. He felt a surge of determination flood his veins. The faces of the townspeople flashed in his mind, friends from his childhood, who had struck out but remained steadfast in their commitment to one another. They needed hope, and maybe he could help revive the spirit of their community through the diner. The first order of business was gathering support. He made a list of names and phone numbers, people he hadn't spoken to in years. As he picked up the phone to call his old friends, a nervous knot formed in his stomach. What would he say? How would they react to him now? "Hey, Mark. It's Jake Thompson." The sound of his own voice was strange after all these years. I think we need to talk. Mark was hesitant at first. There was a long pause before he replied, Jake. I wasn't expecting to hear from you. Jake could almost see him there, frowning with skepticism. I know it's been a while, but I'm back in town. I want your help to save the diner. It means a lot to my dad and to me. Jake could almost picture Mark's expression shifting. The old place. It's barely hanging on. But if you're serious, we can try. With every call, memories resurfaced like echoes of laughter from their youth, filling Jake's heart with a bittersweet warmth. By the end of the day, a small meeting was set at the diner for the following weekend. He felt the excitement bubbling within him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. As the week passed, Jake poured himself into planning. He designed flyers, worked social media, and reached out to local businesses for support. The more he immersed himself in this mission, the more he began to reconnect with the values his father had instilled in him. Hard work, dedication, and loyalty to family and community. The day of the meeting arrived, and the diner was buzzing with life as friends gathered in support. The atmosphere felt electric, laughter bounced off the worn walls and filled the air with renewed energy. Jake felt a presence by his side and turned to see his father standing there, uncertain but hopeful. Hank scanned the crowd, and Jake saw a flicker of pride in his father's eyes as people shared their own memories about the diner. He felt this strange mix of joy and regret. He wished they had shared such moments sooner, but perhaps this was just what they both needed to start healing. Let South save this place, Jake said, raising his glass to make a toast. To memories, and to new beginnings. The room erupted in cheers, and for the first time in ages, Jake felt a weight lift off his chest. Yet, as he locked eyes with his father, the smile faltered. Hank's gaze was still tinged with doubt, a silent question lingering between them: was this just a temporary fix? Jake didn't have the answer, but he was determined to try. As the meeting progressed, plans were formed, and hope blossomed. Yet as conversations grew more intense, Jake's mind drifted. He had reconnected with his past, but what about his future? What if his business life intruded again? Later that evening, Jake found himself alone, staring at the remnants of a half-eaten fried egg with rice left on a plate. It felt ironic, yet symbolic. This meal had awakened something in him, but could it also forge a path toward reconciliation? The door swung open, and a familiar face stepped in: the town's mayor, Carol. Jake, we need to talk, she said, her face serious. There is something you should know about your dad. Jake's heart raced. What was it now? Had he waited too long to mend this bond? What could possibly be unfolding around him that he remained blind to? As he watched her advance, dread filled the pit of his stomach. This was more than just a diner. This was about family, trust, and facing the ghosts of his past. And as all those thoughts raced through his mind, the stirring question echoed louder: could a simple fried egg with rice repair what had been shattered? Jake felt the weight of Carol's words hang in the air, thick with unspoken truths. He shifted uncomfortably on his stool, glancing back at the diner's warm glow, where laughter still resonated. The contrast was stark. Outside, the chill of evening crept in, wrapping around his shoulders like a heavy blanket. What is going on? He managed to ask, his voice steadier than he felt inside. Carol's eyes darted to the ground, then back to him, a seriousness etched on her features that made his heart pound louder. It's about your father, she said, taking a deep breath. I've been meaning to talk to you about his health. It's worse than what he has shown. Jake's stomach lurched. What do you mean? Carol hesitated, searching for the right words. He has been getting faint spells, and Jake, he hasn't been taking care of himself as he should. There were even a few incidents at the diner. The walls felt like they were closing in on him. How could he have been so blind? Why didn't I know this? I've been so wrapped up in trying to save the diner, I didn't see it. Sometimes, it's easier to focus on what's around us rather than face the real issues, she said softly. But you're back now. You can help him, and that's what he needs more than anything. Jake let that settle into his bones. The diner was only part of it. This whole journey was about reconnecting with his father. Suddenly, a quaint dinner filled with fried egg and rice didn't seem trivial, it felt like a lifeline. There's more, Carol continued, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I think he feels guilty about the diner being in such disarray. It's like he's holding onto it as a measure of his worth, and the weight of that is heavy. Jake stared at his hands, recalling the way his father's eyes seemed distant, lost somewhere between pride and despair earlier that evening. I need to talk to him, he murmured. It's time for me to stop pretending everything is fine. Carol nodded, sensing the urgency in his words. He's in the back, cleaning up. You can speak to him now. Just be gentle. He may not take it well. Taking a deep breath, Jake rose. With each step toward the back, the hum of the diner faded, leaving only the pounding of his heart. He steeled himself against the emotions swirling inside him. Hank was in the kitchen, hands working to scrub down the counters. He looked up, and in that brief second, Jake saw the vulnerability in his father's eyes. Jake. You're still here. I needed to talk. Jake's voice was firm but warm. I heard about your health. Hank shook his head emphatically. I'm fine. Just a little tired. But the tremor in his father's hand said otherwise. I'm worried about you, Dad. We can't fix this diner without you, but more importantly, I want to help you. At that moment, a flicker of something akin to hope shone in Hank's gaze. You're really ready to dive in, huh? After all these years? I am. But it's not just about the diner, Jake replied, stepping closer. I want to fix things between us. Hank's expression softened, the hardened lines of worry easing just a bit. I was worried you'd wasted your time coming back, that this was just a phase. It's not, I promise. Jake's voice cracked slightly. Dad, I want us to be a team again. I want to be here for you. The silence stretched, filled with tension and unspoken emotions. Finally, Hank dropped the sponge, fatigue suddenly weighing him down. I didn't want you to see me like this. Things don't have to be perfect, Jake replied, his voice steady. It's about being honest. Can you do that with me? The two men stood facing each other, generations of misunderstandings flickering in the air. The moment felt weighty, like they were teetering on the edge of transformation. Just then, Carol poked her head in. Hey, the community is really rallying, Jake. They want to help out. We need to make decisions soon about the next steps. Jake nodded, absorbing the rush of renewed purpose. Thanks, Carol. Hank looked between them, the wall of doubt still present but now at least cracked open. He let out a deep breath. We can't wait too long, can we? Jake felt a surge of determination swell again. No, we can't. Let us work together and figure this out one step at a time. As the three of them gathered at the kitchen table, the air vibrated with possibilities. But even amidst this flicker of hope, another thought lingered in Jake's mind. What more could there be hidden just beneath the surface? And what would they uncover as they dug deeper into their family's past? The night was only beginning. Jake sat at the kitchen table, his fingers tracing the worn edges of the wood. The air felt charged, like an electric storm was brewing, but inside him, everything was calm and focused. Hank looked worn out, the creases in his forehead deepening. Carol balanced hope and uncertainty in her eyes. All right, then, Hank said, breaking the silence. He leaned forward, wrestling between the weight of his worries and the flicker of hope in Jake's voice. What do you think we should do? Jake took a moment to gather his thoughts. He could feel the pain in his father's gaze. We need a plan for the diner, but we can't neglect your health in the process. We have to put you first. Hank nodded slowly, clearly grappling with the suggestion. It's just hard, you know. This place, it's all I've ever known. I built it with my own 2 hands. I get that, Dad. But maybe it's time to let others help, Jake urged. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. We can find a way to take care of the diner together. Jake's words hung heavy in the air. He saw the glimmer of something in Hank's hardened demeanor, a flicker of acknowledgement, perhaps relief. But the shadows of pride loomed large around them. What if I can't keep up? Hank's voice was small, almost lost. I don't want to watch it crumble. It won tea, Carol chimed in, support woven into her tone. You've built something special, Hank. You might just need a little help from those who care about you. The silence settled again, but this time it felt different, filled with a strange lightness hovering just above them. Hank breathed out slowly, as if he was letting go of a weight he didn't even know he was carrying. I've been so scared of what would happen if I admitted I needed help. It felt like I'd be failing. Turning to each other, doesn't mean failure, Jake responded, leaning slightly forward. It means we're strong enough to be vulnerable. You taught me that. Hank met Jake's gaze, and for a moment, the world outside the diner faded into the background. They were no longer just father and son, they were partners on this journey. All right, we'll try your way, Hank said finally, his voice steadier than before. Jake felt a surge of warmth ripple through him, a promise hanging in the air that they would face this together. Let's start by reaching out to the community, he suggested, thinking of the crowd that had gathered earlier. They want to support us. We need to rally them. Carol smiled, a ray of sunshine breaking through the heavy night. And we can host a community meeting here at the diner. Share our goals, our plan. Everyone can have a say. Good idea. It'll show Dad he's not just keeping this place afloat alone, Jake said, glancing at Hank, who was watching him intently. Hank's expression softened. All right, let's do it, he agreed, his voice full of a new conviction. Jake felt joy at this newfound direction but was hit with another wave of uncertainty. What if the community didn't come through? What if their efforts crumbled beneath them? Yet, as he looked at Carol and then at his father, something in Jake stirred a deep-rooted belief that they could redefine their lives with the strength of the people around them. The clock ticked softly in the background, each second passing felt significant. They meticulously started laying out their plans on a piece of paper, hope spilling over as they brainstormed together. But beneath that hope, an unsettling notion lingered. Their journey together had only just begun. What secret struggles loomed in Hank's past? How would they unearth hidden truths that could either rekindle their bond or threaten it anew? The night deepened, and the diner stood as a beacon, awaiting the answers the morning light would bring. Would they be ready for whatever was to come? The following morning, the sun broke through the diner's windows, casting warm hues across the worn linoleum floor. Jake arrived early, buzzing with nervous energy. Posters for the community meeting were carefully tacked up around the walls, each one filled with hopeful colors and words. Bringing people in meant everything to him. He took a moment to breathe it all in, letting the faint smell of coffee and bacon comfort him. Hank entered a little later, a somewhat reluctant look on his face. He rubbed his eyes, still waking up. The weight of the diner and its future loomed large on his shoulders, but there was something softer in his gaze today, almost hopeful. Morning, Dad, Jake greeted, pouring a cup of coffee and sliding it toward him. You ready for today? I suppose so. Hank's fingers wrapped around the warm mug, and he looked around, as if seeing the diner in a new light. I just hope I don't end up making a fool of myself in front of everyone. You won tea, I promise. Just speak from the heart. They're here to support you, not judge you. Jake leaned closer, sincerity shining in his eyes. Carol soon arrived, her bright smile illuminating her face. She carried with her not only coffees but also a tray of cookies, a small, sweet gesture to ease the nerves. I brought snacks. Can't have a meeting on an empty stomach, right? The act stripped away some of Hank's tension. Laughter filled the air as they set up chairs and cleared tables to create a welcoming space. The diner was no longer just their business, it was becoming a collaborative hub of shared efforts and dreams. As people began to trickle in, Jake's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Would they truly rally? He moved among the crowd, greeting familiar faces, each smile a tiny boost to his confidence. Hank, despite the fleeting glances of uncertainty, managed to engage with a few loyal customers who approached to chat. Before starting the meeting, Jake took a moment to observe his dad. The warmth of the community swelled around them, and Hank, though hesitant still, began to hold himself a bit taller. There was a change taking place, small but palpable. "Thank you all for coming." Jake began when everyone had settled, his voice steady and clear. "Today's about the diner, our home. It's been a tough time, but we're here because we believe in this place and each other." Carol chimed in, sharing how the diner had been a staple in their lives. "This isn't just about business for us. It's about community, friendship, and togetherness. We want to create something that lasts and thrives. But we need your help." Hank stepped forward, heart racing as he grasped the edge of the table. I built this diner over 20 years ago," he started, every eye on him. "I built it with my hands, but it's more than just a building. It's about the people who've walked through these doors." His voice quavered slightly, but he pressed on, vulnerability breaking through. "I was afraid to ask for help, thinking it would mean I failed. But I've realized that asking for support is a sign of strength, not weakness. I need your help to keep this place alive for all of us." The room was silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. And then a ripple. One by one, hands shot up, offering ideas, resources, and promises of support. Tears pricked the corners of Carol's eyes as she witnessed her husband transform before her, the dam of fear breaking, letting hope surge through the diner. Jake felt a warmth bloom in his chest, pride washing over him. But just as the atmosphere shifted to joyous excitement, the door swung open with a loud creak, drawing everyone's attention to a newcomer. A man stood silhouetted against the morning light, his presence commanding and familiar. Jake's breath caught in his throat as recognition washed over him. It was the very investor who had previously shown interest in taking over the diner. What would this unexpected appearance mean for their fragile plans? The sudden shift in energy felt like a punch to the gut. Jake's heart raced as he stared at the figure in the doorway. It was Collins, the slick investor who had eyed the diner with dollar signs in his eyes just a few months back. The glint in his gaze hinted at potential threats. It was the last thing they needed. "Can I help you?" Jake's voice trembled slightly, barely hiding the mixture of anger and dread. Collins stepped into the diner, his presence brimming with confidence and an air of authority. "I heard there was a community meeting. Thought I'd see what the fuss was all about." His smile was charming yet icy, and he scanned the room with a keen eye. As the community members exchanged uncertain glances, Hank seemed to visibly shrink behind the table. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness rise. This was their moment, filled with hope and dedication. "Mr. Collins," Hank began, his voice uncertain but determined. "This place isn't just a business. It means something to us and the community." Of course," Collins said, waving a hand dismissively as he nodded in feigned understanding. "But you know, running a diner is all about margins. Running a diner is about people," Jake interjected, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. "Our community is invested in this place." He turned to the crowd, gaining confidence from the familiar faces around him. "They're not here for numbers. They're here for heart." Carol stepped forward, a fire in her eyes. "Do you know how many memories have been made here? How many milestones we've celebrated? This diner is woven into the fabric of our lives." Collins raised an eyebrow, clearly unaccustomed to being challenged. "Let us not get too sentimental. But I get it, you think you can save this place through community spirit. That's cute. His condescension fueled the fire within Jake. But the room, which was once filled with warmth, quickly shifted to tension as Collins leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. "You know, I could still offer you a deal," he suggested, a smirk creeping onto his face. "One that would guarantee this diner stays alive." Hank's hand trembled slightly on the tabletop. A wave of doubt crossed his face, making Jake's heart sink. Did they really want to end up like that, trading their diner's soul for money? No. Jake shook his head, his voice firmer now. "We don't want your money if it means losing what this place stands for." The silence that followed felt heavy. The air was thick with tension, and Jake's eyes darted across the faces of the community. They were all watching, waiting, holding their breath. "Look, we appreciate your concern," Carol continued, a hint of defiance in her tone, "but we're embarking on something bigger than just keeping the doors open. We want to grow this place into a symbol of unity." The murmurings of agreement rippled through the crowd, bolstering their collective resolve. Collins pushed off the counter, his smug expression faltering. "All right, let us see how long that lasts. But do keep me in mind if you find yourselves in deeper waters." With that, he turned and strode toward the exit, leaving a trail of doubt and uncertainty in his wake. As the door swung shut behind him, a collective sigh of relief swept through the diner. But with it, there was an underlying tension. Collins' words had set seeds of worry that wouldn't easily fade. "Okay, deep breaths," Jake said, trying to regain that buoyant atmosphere. "We're still here. We have each other. Let's not lose focus on what matters." But as he glanced around the room, hoping to see the determination mirrored in the faces of those he loved, he couldn't shake off that nagging feeling. Jake turned to Hank, who looked half relieved and half pained, caught in the conflict of hope and fear. "Dad," he said gently, "what do we do now?" The question hung in the air, ripe with the weight of uncertainty and dozens of undiscovered paths. The answer wasn't clear, but one thing lingered in the back of Jake's mind: they hadn't seen the last of Collins, and that fight was far from over. What would it take to keep their dream alive against powerful forces like Collins? Jake ran a hand through his hair, fingers trembling slightly as he surveyed the faces around him. There was worry etched in the lines of their brows, but beneath it, he could sense a flicker of determination. The diner was their home, a sanctuary, and he needed to remind them of that. "Listen, everyone," he said, raising his voice over the murmurs. "Collins may think he can intimidate us, but this isn't just about business for us. It's personal. Have any of you ever thought about what this place really means to us?" Nods traveled around the room, and Jake's heart swelled. Memories flooded back, birthday parties bursting with laughter, the smell of fresh coffee mingling with warm donuts on chilly mornings, and the laughter that echoed long into the night during trivia Thursdays. "We're a family here," he continued, "and families fight for what matters." Hank seemed to gather courage from Jake's words. "When your mother and I opened this diner, we didn't just build a restaurant. We built a spirit," he added, his voice steadier now. "And that spirit is alive in each of you. It's about the conversations we have, the friendships we form, and the support we give each other." A few community members spoke up, urging each other to share their stories. "I met my wife here," one man said, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. "We had our first date in that booth by the window. This place is where our love started." Another chimed in, her voice cracking with emotion. "And my kids, they learned how to ride their bikes outside the diner. Just last week, we celebrated my daughter's graduation here." The atmosphere began to shift. Confidence brewed amongst the group, hope sparkled in their eyes. Jake could feel the energy rising, like a tide turning. They were warriors of their own story, and Collins would not take that from them. But even as the crowd rallied, Jake kept one eye on the door. He thought about Collins lurking out there, not too far away. "We have to be smart about this," he said after a moment, bringing the focus back to action. "We need a plan, a way to prove we can stand on our own without selling our souls." Carol leaned forward, her expression brightening with an idea. What if we hosted a community event? Something big that showcases everything the diner means to us. Like a festival? Someone suggested. Exactly. Carol exclaimed, energized. We can invite everyone: music, food, games. Let us show Collins that this place is more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Let us make it a celebration. Jake felt the pulse of excitement fill the room as they brainstormed ideas. Plans started bubbling up, each suggestion sparking more enthusiasm. This was their moment to counteract the fears Collins had draped over them. As laughter and ideas bounced around, Jake felt lighter, but that concern still nagged at his mind: would a festival be enough? Could they really gather enough support against someone like Collins? He looked at his father. We'll need help, Dad. We have to reach out to everyone, even those who might have lost hope. Hank nodded, but then his gaze shifted to the window, eyes narrowing. I'll ask around. Maybe I'll get some of my old contacts involved. Maybe we can dig up some surprises. Just then, the bell above the diner door jingled, and they all turned in unison, hearts skipping a beat. The air felt thick with anticipation. What if Collins had come back? Or even worse, what if someone else had figured out a way to undermine their plans? Jake's thoughts raced, uncertainty pooling in the pit of his stomach. The last thing they needed was another shock. As the door swung open, they braced themselves for whatever awaited them on the other side. The fate of the diner and their dreams hung in the balance. Who would walk through that door, and would it bring them closer to their goal or unravel everything they had fought for? The door swung wide, revealing an unexpected figure. It wasn't Collins or anyone they instantly recognized. Instead, a woman stepped through, her hair wild and unkempt, eyes sparkling with a determination that felt out of place in the diner's familiar coziness. Can I help you? Jake called out, cautiously stepping forward. The tension in the room thinned but didn't fade. Everyone anxiously awaited this stranger's next move. She looked around, taking in the faces, the worn booths, the vibrant community that felt like a distant memory for so many. I'm sorry to barge in like this, she said, her voice carrying a slight tremor, but I heard you're fighting to save this place. I want to help. Hank stepped up beside Jake. We appreciate the sentiment, but we're not sure what you can do. The woman smiled, glancing towards a corner booth. In a way, I owe this diner. I became who I am here, she said softly, the weight of her words filling the room. A few years back, I was on the verge of giving up. This place saved me. It felt magical, like home. I want to return the favor. Jake studied her face. There was a flicker of recognition behind her intense eyes. You look familiar. Have we met before? She shook her head. No, but I remember every moment spent here. Your mother used to bring me meals when I could barely afford to eat. Her gaze softened at the thought. This diner was my refuge when life got overwhelming. A few murmurs of surprise rippled through the group. Stories, laden with connection, began resurfacing from the past. You don't know how much your kind words mean to us, Hank finally said. We're trying to pull together a community festival. If you can help, we'd love that. But I have to ask, what do you do? I run a nonprofit dedicated to community outreach. We specialize in organizing events similar to what you described. She grinned, a spark lighting up her features. Music, food, activities. We could even bring in local artists and entertainers to draw people in. Jake's heart swelled. You're serious? Absolutely. Her expression turned earnest. This diner needs love, and I want to rally the community around it. We can create something truly special. The fear and uncertainty that had clung to them began to melt away. As she spoke, ideas bounced from one person to another, like a game of catch, the excitement building with each suggestion. What if we included local vendors? And maybe a pie-eating contest? Someone shouted. A talent show. Another added, voice tinged with enthusiasm. Jake felt himself smile. This was it, the energy, the hope, the shared experience. The diner pulsed with life. But across the room, a shadow flickered past the window. A dark figure loomed outside, his presence unmistakable. Jake felt his heart race again, and the dread loomed, squeezing the atmosphere tight. Collins. The diner had come alive again, filled with dreams and plans starting to simmer, but was it enough to face the threat that Collins posed? The question hung heavy as Jake took a deep breath. "We need to act quickly," he said, turning back to the group. "Let us get started right away. But we have to be ready for Collins' response." As the community rallied around their newfound ally, they all knew it wasn't just the diner at stake anymore, it was their lives, their futures, and the healing connections that held them together. Would this newfound energy be enough to deter Collins, or was it merely the calm before the storm? The room buzzed with excitement, voices overlapping as plans took shape. Jake observed each person, their faces lighting up with renewed hope. Yet, in the back of his mind, Collins' presence lingered like an uninvited specter, casting shadows over their blossoming dreams. "Let us organize a meeting for tomorrow," Hank suggested, drawing Jake's attention back to the heat of the moment. "We'll brainstorm ideas and set a timeline. We need to move quickly if we want to build momentum." "Good idea," Jake agreed, his heart racing with the possibilities. He looked back at the woman, who still stood near the door, her energy contagious. "What's your name?" "Clara," she said, her smile brightening the room even more. "I'm so ready to jump in." Jake felt inspired. Clara exuded a sense of purpose that seemed to invigorate the diner itself, bringing with it a warmth that wrapped around them. "Okay, Clara. You lead our festival meeting, and we'll all pitch in. We'll reach out to vendors, musicians, artists. We'll make this a community event, one to remember." A round of applause broke out, filled with laughter and clapping hands, the sound echoing like a heartbeat, making the diner feel even more alive. Jake felt a surge of pride. They weren't just saving a diner, they were igniting a movement. But then, as if summoned by their joy, the door swung open dangerously fast. The sound rang out like a warning bell. "Look who's here," a voice crooned, heavy with disdain. It was Collins, stepping in with the weight of the world behind him. His presence sucked the air from the room, and the warmth faded into a frigid silence. "Now, this is cozy," he sneered, looking around at the gathered crowd. "Planning a little festival, are we? Isn't that cute? Get out, Collins. You're not welcome here," Jake said, steeling himself with resolve. "Oh, but I'm just getting started," Collins replied, his voice oozing with a mock cheerfulness that cut through the air. "This little gathering. It's adorable," he continued, throwing a glance at Clara. "But do you think anyone will really come? You think your little community can stand up to the big players?" Hank stepped forward. "Our community is stronger than you think. We'll fight for what matters." Collins laughed. "Fight? The only thing you should be doing is stepping aside. Give up now, save yourselves the embarrassment." Jake felt a fire ignite inside him. "You don't know us at all. We're not backing down. Not now, not ever." Colin's smile faltered for a moment but quickly morphed into something cold and menacing. "Suit yourselves, but remember this, every storm inevitably passes. You'll be the debris left in the wake." With that, he turned and swept out, leaving behind an air of uncertainty and tension. As whispers filled the diner, Jake turned to Clara. "We need to push harder. Collins will use every tactic to intimidate us." She nodded, determination etched into her features. "We will not be deterred. We'll show him what this community is made of." Together, they began discussing counter-actions, but doubt simmered in Jake's gut. What would Collins do next? As fleeting laughter turned to apprehension, a silence stretched through the room again. The warmth of the moment had turned into a frigid awareness of what lay ahead. "Tomorrow, we come together," Jake announced, trying to rally spirits once more. But we have to stay vigilant. We're in this battle for more than just a diner. As people began to disperse, Jake shared worried glances with Clara, knowing full well that the real fight was just beginning. What would the next move from Collins be? And would they be ready when it arrived? The sun hung low in the sky the next morning, casting a golden hue over the diner as Jake stood outside, boxing up the remnants of doubt. Today was the day they would launch their community festival, a bold stand against Collins and everything he represented. The tables were laden with local vendors, the smell of fresh coffee mixed with blooming flowers, and laughter intermingled with the clank of utensils as old friends reunited. But beneath the festive atmosphere, Jake could feel tension nipping at the edges of his excitement. Collins had promised to make things difficult, and Jake didn't want to leave any stone unturned. He thought of his father, who was helping set up inside, visibly buoyed by the camaraderie of the community, yet shadows still clouded his weary eyes. "Today's the day, Dad," Jake said, his voice steady as he approached Hank, who was organizing chairs. "It's all in your hands now. You have support, and this diner is still alive because of you. You've always been the heart of this place." Hank looked up, a smile breaking through the wrinkles of worry. "I'd say it's more than just me. It's everyone gathered here." He gestured toward the growing crowd outside. "Today, we're reminding Collins and ourselves why this diner matters." As the festival began, music filled the air, with local bands playing heartfelt tunes. Children danced around, parents smiled holding hands as they shared in laughter. Jake felt the weight lift, if only for a moment. People spilled into the diner from all directions, and smiles adorned familiar faces. Just then, Clara joined them, her arms loaded with posters. "These are our flyers. I've got everyone promoting the festival, and I even grabbed a few social media influencers to help share our story." Her eyes sparkled with determination. "That's amazing," Jake said, feeling his heart quicken. With each booth set up and each laugh shared, they could shimmer under the light of hope, and for today, that was enough. As the sun slipped lower, Jake took a moment to weave through the crowd, absorbing the warmth the festival had brought, a genuine sense of community igniting. But just as hope climbed higher, a shadow passed through the diner's door. "Collins." "Here we go," Jake muttered under his breath, bracing himself. Collins surveyed the room, a smirk settling upon his face as he approached, hands tucked casually in pockets. "Looks cheerful, doesn't it? You really think this little party will save the place? You can't just throw a celebration and expect anything to change." The laughter dipped. All eyes turned toward Jake, hearts clenching instinctively. "Maybe you don't quite understand," Jake said, steadiness returning to his voice. "This diner isn't just a business, it's alive. And today we're proving it." Collins let out a chuckle. "Oh really? Because if you don't sell soon, it's just going to become a relic of a bygone era. The world doesn't need another broken diner in a dying town." He skipped past outright threats, instead indulging in plain disdain. "Actually," Clara spoke up, her voice cutting through the tension, "we're here to remind it's just the opposite. This diner is a haven, and it's thriving because of the people who care about it." Jake felt hope swell as applause broke out in the background, drifting like warm sunlight spilling through the windows. The connections formed here were genuine. "You can keep your condescending attitude and your offers," Jake said, stepping closer. "We're building something stronger than your money can buy." Collins angled his head, studying them, the mockery fading momentarily. "You think this little rebellion will last? What you're creating? Funny thing about passion, sometimes it leads to a fall." "Maybe," Jake replied, his heart pounding. "But the truths we uncover and the stories we share are worth far more than riches. We won't fade so easily. We'll be here long after you're gone." Collins scoffed, but Jake caught a hint of uncertainty flicker behind his eyes as he retreated towards the door. "We'll see who holds the final cards," he said defiantly, but there was an urgency in his footsteps as he stepped back outside. Jake released a breath he didn't know he was holding, his heart racing from the encounter. The crowd erupted in cheers, the energy shifting back to joy as they turned their focus back to the festival. Hank, looking relieved, approached Jake, eyes glimmering with pride. "You handled that well, son. See? It's not just about the diner, it's about the community. You opened your heart and rallied everyone together." With the warmth surrounding him, Jake felt a sense of belonging that had eluded him for years, piece by piece revealing what once lay dormant. As the sun set, casting vibrant colors across the sky, the festival raged on, leaving behind the shadows of doubt. The band played on, laughter bloomed, as their lives intertwined in moments shared. And while Jake remained vigilant against Colin's looming presence, he knew today was a victory not of sales or capital, but in heart. Stepping back, he absorbed the beauty of the crowd around him, each soul linked by a belief in the future. Today was just the beginning, Jake whispered to Hank, his spirit soaring amidst the echoes of those they loved. "We're fighting for every moment, every memory made here. The diner will live on." And as Jake felt the heart of the diner pulse alongside the community, a firm realization settled in: love could not be measured by dollar signs. It was the stories, the people, and the connections that mattered most. Together, they would triumph. Together, they would shine. This was their fight, their legacies, and they were all in it together. Now is the time to be part of something bigger than all of us. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss future exclusive stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your unwavering support. And don't forget to comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this incredible journey. You have the power to share this story. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to make an impact. Your involvement matters more than you know.